Hey guys, what is going on? It is Brooke, or the Undead DM. It's been a minute since I uploaded one of these, so I figured I'd get back into the saddle and show you guys the rest of this book that I promised. So, we're going to be reviewing the Craftsman. I know it doesn't say it right here, but trust me, in the original version it was called the Craftsman, and even in the index it says it's the Craftsman. So, let's just get right into this. So, the Craftsman is sort of a martial class. Sorry. The Craftsman is a sort of martial-esque class that specializes in crafting items, as the name suggests. And here's all this lore. If you guys want to read it for yourselves, pause the video now. But I'm not going to, as I'm mostly focused on the mechanics here. We're not going to worry about the quick build, but it is good to know that it is either strength or dex based, so that's one partial indication that it is martial based. And it's followed by intelligence, and you pick athletics and investigation. So if we look here, we can see that you have active crafting. We'll get into that when we get to it. It is a D10 class, so it is a little bit tankier than the standard D8 hit die, but not by much. It gets proficiency in all armor and shields, all weapons, and all tools, except for thieves' tools. And its saving throw proficiencies are Constitution and Intelligence, and it could choose 2 skills from Arcana, Athletics, History, Investigation, Medicine, Perception, and Persuasion. So, immediately what stands out to me is the fact that this is basically the same build as the fighter. It's got the same hit die size, and it's got the same proficiencies, except the difference is that it's a fighter that has the ability to use pretty much any tool that isn't thieves' tools, because it's all artisans' tools. And I don't believe thieves' tools count as artisan tools. If I'm wrong about that, go ahead and leave me a comment below. But as far as I'm aware, thieves' tools are a separate thing than artisans' tools. Constitution and Intelligence. That's definitely a combination I don't think we've ever seen before. I think we've seen Constitution and Charisma with the Sorcerer, but I've never seen Constitution and Intelligence. Constitution's always a good skill or a good proficiency in saves to have, but I'd say since the only thing you're going to be using Constitution for is like resisting poisons, it's not really all that useful if you're not using spells, and based on what I've read of this class, it's not really going to be using a lot of spells anyway. Its starting equipment is a set of craftsman's tools, which are a unique thing to the craftsman. A shield, chainmail, leather armor, or scale mail. A dagger, a warhammer, or any simple weapon. A light crossbow with 20 bolts, or a short bow with 20 arrows, and an engineer's pack. Not very important, but regardless. At first level, you get exotic proficiencies. So, you gain proficiency in exotic weapons and exotic armor, which are different. And if a feature or effect grants you proficiency with a weapon or suit of armor, it does not grant proficiency with exotic weapons or exotic armor unless otherwise stated. So, basically, the Craftsman is the only class that has access to these exotic items. No other class, as it states right here, exotic items and armor are unconventional yet effective items in which no other class gets proficiency. So, what that tells me is that this class is going to have access to weapons and armor that no other class is going to have access to. So, it has to be really careful of how they make these both unique but strong enough to be worth using over the base options. Now, you get active crafting in first level. And to boil this down, basically how it works, if you want to read the entire text, go right ahead. But how it works is whenever you want to craft an item, you can craft one mundane item a day every time you take a long rest. And you could do it without losing the benefits of the long rest. But you have to pay the item's gold piece cost in materials. And your cap is equal to your active crafting. So let's say, for instance, you have a dagger, and the dagger is worth 10 gold pieces. You'd have to pay 10 gold pieces to craft that dagger over a long rest. And so you can complete it in one day because it's equal to or less than your active crafting amount. However, if it's greater than that, you have to essentially spend multiple days and spending gold equal to your cap until you have either reached the full payment or are below it. So again, let's go back to this example. Let's say, my mistake, it was actually half the gold of the item. So let's say you have an item worth 50 gold pieces and you want to craft it. And the half the gold piece worth of materials is 25 gold, so you can craft it over one day. But let's say the item you want to craft is 200 gold. Half of that is 100 gold, meaning you'd have to spend at level 1 4 long rests to craft the item, because it is 25 divided by 4. So you can only spend 25 gold a day to craft an item. And every time you level up, you get an increase in that amount. So it goes from 25 to 50, all the way up to 500 gold pieces. And there's also a little caveat here, where items you craft are worth half their gold piece cost when sold. And this means that you can sell an item to refund its cost of materials, but not to make a profit. So essentially, there's no reason to do this, as when attempting to make my own crafting system, I found that if you allow players to sell items that they craft, they're going to make a profit regardless, unless you put in a heavy restriction. So if you put in that heavy restriction, now there's no reason to craft items to begin with, because there's no reason you should be crafting an item this early or later on in the game when you could just buy it. Sure, you get a refund, but if it takes you 4 long rests to get there, there's no point. It would be literally easier, quicker, more efficient, and save everyone time just to buy the item. Not saying this isn't useful at early levels when you don't have a lot of gold, but this ability requires you to not only pay half of the item's cost in materials, it also doesn't state what the materials are, so that's a bit strange. That you can essentially say, well, it says I have to pay half of the gold piece in materials, but it doesn't specify I have to use the exact materials that the item is made out of, so I can just buy 25 gold pieces worth of dirt and make a dagger out of it, just because. But anyway, I don't think it's a very good ability at level 1, especially when that's all you get is either proficiencies and this ability. Especially before it was limited to mundane items, but here it's not even limited to that, it's just items, so you can even craft magic items if you wanted to. Masterwork. So, masterwork equipment. As a craftsman, you are capable of creating weapons and armor of the utmost quality, and they're considered masterwork items. To create a masterwork item, you add 50 gold to the cost of materials you pay to craft the item. They all have a +1 bonus to attack rolls, or weapons have a +1 bonus to attack rolls. A magic weapon that adds a bonus to your attack and damage rolls doesn't add this bonus to attack rolls. So basically what that's saying is that if you have a +1 flame tongue sword and you have a craftsman on your team and they decide to make it into, like, upgrade it to a better version, it doesn't get the additional +1 from this ability. So at second level you get apprentice, and it costs only 50. Then Journeyman at 5th level is 100 gold piece cost. Master is 250 and Legendary is 400 at 11th and 17th level, respectively. And Masterwork weapons and armor can be modified with properties, advanced modifications, which transform them into unique weapons. They are separated into Apprentice, Journeyman, Master, and Legendary, as I stated before, and can apply any number of Apprentice properties to a Masterwork weapon or 3 Apprentice properties to a Masterwork suit of armor. And you can apply 1 Journeyman, 1 Master, and 1 Legendary property to each Masterwork item. If you add a Master or Legendary property to an item, only you can use it. So, I'm going to finish this ability, which is long-winded, but I'm going to come back to that. So, using your active crafting, the one that costs gold pieces every day, you can take a long rest, and it allows you to do the following. You can make any non-magic weapon or suit of armor masterwork for a cost of 50 gold pieces. So the materials, in most cases, they're raw materials that can be obtained for half the gold piece cost. You must have the tools necessary to do it, the time required. All this. So then you go adding masterwork properties. Adding masterwork properties of journeyman level or higher requires a cost in gold pieces and also requires you to be a high enough level in that class as shown in the table. And when you learn a new level of masterwork properties, you can apply a property from that level to a masterwork item at no cost. So check the weapons exceptions sidebar in chapter 5. Whenever you modify the properties of a masterwork weapon, you could change its damage type to bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing if its damage was already either bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing. And you can remove any properties of a masterwork item, including those a weapon had when you first created it. You can't remove a property from an item that is a prerequisite for another of the item's properties. If you replace a property of a journeyman level or higher with a property of the same level over the same long rest, you can do so without additional cost of materials, and of course your crafting ability DC is 8 plus intelligence plus proficiency. So, a few problems here. It says that to create a masterwork item it costs 50 gold. But there's no cost for apprentice, so the logic here is that the 50 gold goes here. And then also only has a specification for weapons having a +1 bonus to attack rolls. But then it goes, a magic weapon that adds a bonus to your attack and damage rolls doesn't add this bonus. But this is assuming that you have magic items at this level, which 5th edition both does and does not encourage you to do as a dungeon master. And also the cost, it doesn't say anywhere here, and even in the next portion, that you pay this, does it just increase from 50 to 100? Or do you have to add 100 to the initial 50? Nowhere does it say. And also, the one line here that I think kills this entire concept of Craftsman is the Master and Legendary property, only you can use that item. So, no giving your party members Legendary or Masterwork properties on their items. Can't do it. Why? Because teamwork's overrated when you could do everything yourself, I guess. And also, adding all this is all well and dandy. I think just having all these restrictions, like you can't sell it for the same price. You can't apply it to magic items because they don't really get any benefit from it. You can only apply this many properties to it, but if you apply a master or legendary, possibly the best ones, you are the only one that can use them, so not even your party members who would benefit really greatly from those master or legendary properties can use it. So, this entire concept of a craftsman being a team player and making items for their party no longer works because their properties don't work on other players. Why would they do this? I have no clue. But I digress. Also at 2nd level you get Tool Belt. So you can use your action to retrieve a piece of non-magical gear from your belt, apron, pack, cart, or whatever you have your tools in. And the item's gold piece cost... so the cart or wherever you keep your tools, even if you didn't have it in your inventory, the item's gold piece cost can be up to 50 gold. You can't use this feature to produce a weapon, suit of armor, shield, or potion. An item retrieved this way becomes lost in your inventory and vanishes when you take a long rest. And you could use this ability a number of times equal to your intelligence, and gain all expended when you take a long rest. So basically, this allows you to, because you can't make any weapons, suits of armor, shields, or potions. So you can essentially just pull out like rope, climbing pythons, ball bearings, pretty much anything out of your belt. You essentially just become Batman. And if you try to put it in your inventory for whatever reason, it just disappears. You don't know where the hell it goes. So you essentially have Batman's utility belt or Mickey Mouse's Mousetool. That's essentially what you got here. You literally just have an item at hand at any point in time that you want. Just, oh, we need to get across this moat. Well, good thing I have this ladder, because there's no size limit. It's just a gold piece limit, so as long as it's below that, you're fine. Artisan skill, this is your subclass. Ability score improvements, again, I'll state this every time. I find it very sad that they only get 4, 8, 12, 16, and 19 for being a martial class with basically no magical properties outside of crafting, so very sad. I've already stated in a rant video that extra attack is a fake feature. Folded steel at 6th level. Masterwork weapons crafted or modified by you count as magical. Don't know why they weren't magical before, but hey, whatever. At level 9, you can cast the spell Identify at will. And when you cast the spell, you also appraise the item, learning its market value. So, you as the player playing a craftsman at level 9 have now not only a spell that gives you all the information that you want about an item, but now you're also putting the DM on the spot on how much the item should cost. If it's a homebrew item, good luck, you're not getting that information. Because no DM that I can think of has a gold piece cost associated with any homebrew item that they've made. They just go, I want this item to be made, I make it, and they have no clue where it's supposed to stand. So I can guarantee this is never going to function properly. Unless you're one of those weird DMs that somehow manages to not only know how much gold it's supposed to cost, but then have like a realistic market for that sort of thing for other adventurers. It's weird. At 13th level, you get Flawless Construction. Masterwork items you create do not rust, pit, fray at the edges, or otherwise show signs of aging. And they have resistance to all damage, and an effect that would destroy an item you have created only does so if it could destroy a magic item. So, I don't think the spell Disintegrate can destroy magic items. So basically, nothing can destroy this unless it specifically says it destroys magic items, like black. What was it, black pudding? I think that's one that it does. Kind of useless because not a lot of instances are gonna have your weapons, armor, items being broken. It's mostly gonna be stolen or expended for the day, so not really sure how useful that's gonna be. Uncanny Tool Belt. You can produce a single common or uncommon magic item from your tool belt. Becomes lost if it goes in your inventory, and it vanishes after a long rest. And you can only do it once per long rest. So cool, you can now pull out a healing potion, because there's no limitation on that anymore. You could pull out a magic weapon, or a magical suit of armor. Cool. At level 20, your capstone ability. So sorry, hold on, I gotta hype it up and make sure that you guys understand how unruly and powerful this ability is, like all 5th edition capstone abilities are. Level 20, Magnum Opus. You work fervorously for a period of 30 days to create a single magic item of very rare or legendary quality. This item is tied to your very soul. Regardless of type, you are always considered attuned to it, and no other creature can attune to it while you are alive. It does not count against the number of attuned items, and you ignore all attunement requirements for the item. As long as you are on the same plane of existence as your item, you can call it to your hand or onto your body. and you can only have one crafted magnum opus at a time. So, you have proficiency in all weapons, all armors, shields, and all tools, and your capstone ability is that once a month you can make a singular, very rare, or legendary rarity item, and you're always attuned to it. It doesn't count against the number of attunement slots, and no one else can use it, pretty much. Okay, okay. So, outside of the average player who would think to themselves playing this class, well, I specialize in ranged combat. So I'm going to get the best ranged, like, magic bow, crossbow I can find. And I'm going to make that my magnum opus. This way it's the best build. Outside of those optimistic people who see it as what it is, what do you realistically think is going to be used with this? Realistically. Because once you hit legendary, the only items above that are artifacts. And there can only be one artifact in the world. So, like, I'm confused. Because if we go into this, do you know what is a legendary item? The Luck Blade. And that allows you to cast Wish. Or let's say you don't want to use a weapon. And you want to say, I don't know, do something else with it. Well, you know what else happens to be a legendary item? The Ring of Three Wishes. And the best part is that because the spell Wish stipulates that if you are casting the spell, you lose the ability to cast any spells if you fail a check. You as a craftsman don't have spells to begin with, and also it doesn't affect you if you're casting it from an item. So you literally have zero repercussions for this. And also, it doesn't state if the item has charges, it has the least amount of charges, or no charges at all. Nothing like that. You just create an item. Okay, cool. Well, every month I'm going to create a Luck Blade or a Ring of Three Wishes or the most broken item I can find in the book. I'm going to use everything that I can from it. And then once it's done, if it doesn't recharge anything, I'm just going to spend 30 additional days to craft another one. Literally over the course of 2 months, you can craft a Luck Blade, use all of its wishes, then craft a Ring of Three Wishes, then use all of its wishes, and you could just wish for your entire party to be maximum level. Even though you're already at maximum level, you can wish to gain another feat, like another epic boon. You can wish for everybody to become invulnerable to all damage. You can wish for the campaign to end, what have you. Doesn't matter, it's Wish. Wish is the most powerful thing you can possibly have. It's broken and it doesn't make sense for the game. So, outside of the most optimistic way of using this ability, which is to make your playstyle better, setting aside the reality of just being able to craft infinite wishes, why does this class exist? It speaks to me as a support class, like a leader from 4th edition, though it doesn't really take the healing aspect, it's more of the support crafter aspect, where it gives you items that buff you as your party. But then it punishes you by doing it because the best features that you'd want to give to your party, you can't, because you can't give them legendary or master items. You can't give them those. You can only give them apprentice and journeyman. So I don't think this class functions baseline based on the notion that you have to pay the gold piece cost. Granted, your team could probably pitch in for it, but you still have to pay a gold piece cost, which sucks. And as far as I'm aware, there's no check involved in this except for removing things or saving throws. Because it doesn't say anywhere that there's a check that has to be made to craft these. It just says over a long rest, you craft an item. That's it. There's no check involved. It just happens. So this whole DC, I don't think needs to be here. So that's kind of pointless unless some of the properties have DCs associated with them. Then sure, keep it. But you're forced to pay a gold piece cost to craft these items instead of it being a roll and succeed. It just happens, but you have to pay gold to do it. Selling it is basically useless. This will basically never be used outside of like early levels. And on top of that, you can't give your party any of the good items that you would be able to craft at this level. The fact that you don't have any good combat prowess as a class that has proficiency in anything combat related here. So this just says to me we wanted to make a support class but didn't know how to do it, so we tacked on a somewhat thought out crafting system but then didn't think of the implications, attached it to a class, and then said, well, that's kind of it. And they were like, well, dang it, we can't have that. We can't have them just be a crafter. We have to have them be okay in combat, too. So what is the most okay-ish ability to give a martial character? Extra attack, of course. Extra attack. So it's so strange that they make a martial support class that is focused on supporting the party, but then nerfs all of their supportive capabilities and makes them super selfish. And then the one time that you'd actually be a good support, which is level 20, only you can use the item. You can't even give your mage like a Staff of the Magi. You can't give them anything good because only you can use it. Sure, you could use it, but that kind of defeats the point of being a supportive crafter class, helping your allies by giving them items for cheaper and better. So, to me, this is a walking contradiction class. It's wanting you to play the class in one way, but then punishes you for doing it. But if you don't do it, you're not getting half your class features, or you're playing in a selfish way, which, to be fair, is kind of in the realm of 5th edition's design philosophy. Overall, I think this is one of the worst classes I have ever seen. The only thing topping this is pretty much anything written by Ross Leiser. This is one of the worst quality, worst thought out classes in terms of design that I have seen since Ross Leiser. I would not recommend playing this. I would not recommend even considering it, reading it. I'm sorry, it sucks. It is terrible. But in the next episode... Oh, is there more? Nope. Nope, that's it. So, in the next episode, we're going to be going over their subclasses and see how that goes. Maybe they put all the power into that. Who knows? But, see y'all in the next episode.